blindcommunitythriftstore.com. Please stay tuned as our broadcast will start soon. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel now. At Blind Community Thrift Store on YouTube, and more info about this radio reading service, Navalins, and the Blind Community Thrift Store at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.com. The Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service will begin shortly. We will be reading local news from around the Southwest Missouri area, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on YouTube, KSMU, and on the Audio Reader Network at Kansas University. For more information, please visit us at www.blindcommunitythriftstore.
I think it's Gilbert Mesa Airport. That's a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Smaller. It's just...
Yeah.
My sister lives in Chandler, so it's just...
Using Love Field instead of DFW.
Oh, yeah. And a good morning. Thank you for tuning in to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. This is Dory, and I'm here with Tony. And we invite you to listen to our broadcasts both live and on demand. Our live sessions are available on the Blind Community Thrift Store YouTube channel Monday through Friday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. each week. And additionally, you can access on-demand content through the Audio Reader Network, which offers a wide range of audio materials for the visually impaired community. To explore content from the Audio Reader Network, please visit www.reader.ku.edu. The site provides details about accessing content via Amazon Alexa, Audio Reader Network mobile app, and information on receiving a radio to listen to the broadcast by KSMU Radio. All broadcasts are played over KSMU's subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Contact Audio Reader Network for information on receiving a pre-programmed radio.
Good morning. Coming to us from the Springfield News-Leader this morning, Springfield schools are closed Wednesday with homework for students. Springfield students are getting another day off school Wednesday, January 28th due to the inclement weather. However, this time students will be required to complete some homework. Springfield Public Schools announced it will not be in session Wednesday due to persisting winter conditions. With two traditional snow days already called Monday and Tuesday, the district will switch to Alternative Method of Instruction, or AMI, for Wednesday. Students in grades pre-K through 8th should complete the assigned learning for Day 1 contained in the AMI packet that was provided in December. Students in grades 9 through 12 should log into Canvas for the day's learning assignment. Students are required to complete the assigned work in order to not be counted absent for the AMI day. Following is a photo of all of the snow that fell in a local Springfield neighborhood. Springfield saw more than 6 inches of snow through the winter storm over the weekend. Combined with extremely low temperatures, the snow is expected to stick around longer, and refreezing overnight of melted snow on roads remains a concern. Most larger thoroughfares were clear Tuesday afternoon, though smaller neighborhood streets still created hazardous driving conditions.
American Airlines will be offering nonstop flights from Springfield to Phoenix. This is from the Springfield Business Journal. The largest airline operating out of the Springfield Branson National Airport has added a 5th nonstop route. Starting May 23rd, American Airlines will offer Saturday-only service from Springfield to Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport in Arizona. The seasonal service will end August 1st. Quote, for more than 50 years, American Airlines has been providing commercial air service to the Ozarks, said Brian Wheeler, Director of Aviation at the airport, in a news release. We are grateful for the continued investment American Airlines has made in providing the air service needs of Southwest Missouri. Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport is a major hub for American, offering nonstop service to more than 110 domestic and international destinations. Quote, we're eager to welcome travelers from Southwest Missouri on our new service to Phoenix this summer, said Jordan Pack, American's Director of Domestic Network Planning, in the release. As we've steadily grown our flights out of Springfield, travelers have responded positively. This has given us the confidence to add flights to Phoenix that will unlock more access from Springfield to the Southwest and Western U.S. Missouri's third largest airport supports 4 airlines with nonstop flights to 15 destinations.
And in crime news overnight from the Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield police investigate a deadly shooting late Tuesday night. Police say one person was killed in a shooting late Tuesday, January 27th in North Springfield. Chris Swatters, spokesperson for the Springfield Police Department, said officers were dispatched at 11:58 p.m. to the 1900 block of North Burton Avenue for a report of shots fired. When officers arrived, they found a man who had been shot. He was transported to the hospital where he died, Swatters said. As of Wednesday morning, no one had been arrested in the connection with the homicide. This is a developing story and will be updated. In additional crime news from the Springfield Daily Citizen, Wichita police arrest man in Springfield on suspicion of murder. Wichita, Kansas police say they coordinated with the Springfield Police Department on Monday, January 26, to arrest a murder suspect in Springfield. Donnie J. Harris, 27, of Springfield, is accused of fatally shooting another man on Monday morning on East Indianapolis Street in Wichita. A news release from the Wichita Police Department says just after 8 a.m. on Monday, officers discovered a deceased man with gunshot wounds after responding to a welfare check. The release says police used multiple resources, including flock license plate reading cameras, to identify Harris as a suspect in the case. Wichita police, working in close coordination with the Springfield Police Department, located and arrested Harris on Monday evening on suspicion of first-degree murder, according to the release. Wichita and Springfield are about 4 hours apart. Harris was booked into the Greene County Jail and was still listed on the jail roster as of Tuesday evening. Police had not yet publicly identified the victim as of Tuesday evening. Anyone with information related to this investigation is asked to contact the Wichita Police Department at 316-268-4407.
From the Springfield Business Journal, a new ownership takes helm of Queen City manufacturer. After nearly 20 years of employment in the banking industry, Christy Chasteen embarked on a professional shift last year. She and her husband now own a 28-year-old manufacturing business. Christy and Brian Chasteen officially closed September 2nd on the deal to buy Advanced Metal Fabricators Incorporated from Jason O'Neill, the original owner of the company, which opened in 1998. She declined to disclose the purchase price or terms of the couple's lease for the company's 15,000 square foot building at 1050 East Lynn Street that O'Neill continues to own. Quote, "I love manufacturing. That was my favorite type of lending when I did commercial loans," Christy Chasteen said, noting her banking career included work at Commerce Bank, Metropolitan National Bank, Guarantee Bank, and the Bank of Missouri. She continues, "I think most bankers secretly are curious about owning a business, and I certainly was. I don't know that I necessarily voiced it, but in the last 2 or 3 years, my husband and I got really serious about doing it." When the couple came on board with the company in April, Chasteen said O'Neill couldn't close on the transaction for several months due to tax reasons. At Advanced Metal Fabricators, Chasteen is Chief Financial Officer, while her husband is President. Quote, "It's been a good process. It's been fun," Chasteen said, of becoming owners of the company that specializes in fabrication of sheet metal for residential and commercial customers. "Several of my friends have asked me if this was the right decision. I'm like, absolutely. I love banking. I learned a lot from it and enjoyed it, but this is totally different and I love it. I absolutely love having the ability to affect your job, your company, and it is such a great responsibility," she added. Chasteen said metal products manufactured at the Queen City Company include fascia, guttering, roofing panels, and soffit. Most of its clients are within a 500-mile radius of Springfield. "Anything that's metal on the outside of a building we can build," she said, adding Advanced Metal Fabricators also make specialty products for inside homes, such as railing and custom chimney caps. With much of her banking career focused on commercial lending, Chasteen said she was familiar with helping companies such as manufacturers with loans. While she didn't have manufacturing in her employment background, Brian had 8 years of experience as a project manager at Central States Industrial Equipment and Service, Inc. The company recently hired their first new employees since becoming owners, she said, which increased the small staff to 8. Most of the employees' experience at Advanced Medical Fabricators ranges from between 5 and 18 years. Noting the longevity and skill level of its staff has been very helpful for the new owners, Chasteen said. They still, though, have, quote, "lots to learn." There's also process improvements we're working on to help both of us and all of our employees work through everything in a much more efficient and effective manner, she said. "It's like eating an elephant. You eat it one bite at a time." The company recently refreshed the company offices and are evaluating equipment for future investment, she said. We've also got some software upgrades we need to look at, she said. We can improve upon what's here and make life easier not only for employees, but provide better time frames for our clients to receive product.
And from Zoe McIntyre in the Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield's Route 66 Centennial Celebration will feature the Today Show concert hosted by John Goodman. Route 66 100th birthday celebration will start April 30th with a live national broadcast from NBC's Today Show in Springfield. During the 4-day festival, community leaders will dedicate the Birthplace Plaza downtown and a new monument called the Queen's Gate Sculpture. The festivities will also feature live music, a vintage automobile parade, a bash at the Jefferson Avenue footbridge, and a Route 66-themed Arts Fest on Walnut Street on May 2nd and 3rd. The National Route 66 Centennial Kickoff Concert on April 30th at Great Southern Bank Arena will be hosted by actor John Goodman, a Missouri State University alum. Musical acts include Grammy-winning group Little Big Town, as well as Gretchen Wilson, Chris Jansen, Gary LaVox of Rascal Flats, the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, and the Haygoods. The Route 66 Centennial Commission released a full list of events for the festival kickoff on Monday. Created by the Missouri General Assembly, the commission is responsible for leading the state's planning for the centennial celebration. The Queen City holds the official designation as the birthplace of Route 66 because on April 30th, 1926, federal highway officials received a telegram from Springfield proposing the name U.S. Route 66, according to the commission's release. Springfield leaders in government, business, and tourism are collaborating on plans for the centennial. Following is a headline that reads, Newtown Town Plaza will mark the origin of Route 66. And there's a photo of a rendering by Dake Wells that shows where Juan Garizabal's Ghost of the Colonial Hotel will stand in downtown Springfield. Sculpture is part of the birthplace of Route 66 Plaza. The birthplace of Route 66 Plaza at Jefferson Avenue and St. Louis Street will mark the location where the 1926 telegram naming the Mother Road was sent. Missouri State University donated about 2,630 square feet of space from one of its parking lots for the project. A sculpture depicting the ghost of the Colonial Hotel, which once stood at this location, will be the plaza's highlight. The birthplace of Route 66 Plaza dedication ceremony will take place at 4 p.m. on April 30th, with remarks from elected officials and Route 66 preservation advocates. At 11 a.m. on May 1st, local, state, and national leaders will take part in a dedication ceremony for the Queen's Gate sculpture at St. Louis Street and Glenstone Avenue. The 20-foot-tall lighted monument was funded by a $1 million state budget appropriation, according to a previous reporting from the Daily Citizen. Following is a rendering of the Queen's Gate 66, the monument to be placed on East St. Louis Street. It looks almost like a sun with a person standing inside. Nice little arch that says Springfield, Missouri. Route 66 Centennial Kickoff highlights. April 30th at 8 a.m., NBC's Today Show broadcasts third hour live from Springfield to a national audience, with the program focusing on telling the story of Route 66 history in Springfield. At 4 p.m., Birthplace Plaza dedication at Jefferson Avenue and St. Louis Street. From 5 to 11 p.m., the Centennial Kickoff Concert at Great Southern Bank Arena, hosted by actor John Goodman and Springfield City Council member Callie Carroll. Tickets go on sale for that on January 30th. On May 1st, Queen's Gate sculpture dedication at St. Louis Street and Glenstone Avenue happens at 11 a.m. Then at 6 p.m., they'll celebrate America Parade with classic cars on Route 66. From 6 to 9 p.m., Red, White, and Bridge Bash with live music and entertainment at the Jefferson Avenue footbridge. The official lighting of the bridge with a choreographed drone show is scheduled to start at 7:30 p.m.
And from the Springfield News-Leader, Ozarks Milk Depot sets new donation record with 2025 contributions. This is written by Dave DeMille. The Greater Ozarks Regional Mothers Milk Depot pumped out a record year in 2025, collecting a whopping 30,388 ounces of donated breast milk to help feed medically fragile infants across Missouri, according to a community announcement. That total surpassed the depot's previous high of 18,861 ounces set in 2021, reflecting growing support from families able to share extra frozen milk. Because each ounce can provide up to 3 feedings for infants in intensive care units, this year's total could supply more than 91,000 feedings bags, according to the announcement. Quote, "We are incredibly grateful for our breast milk donators, many of whom are past recipients of donor milk and want to pay it forward," said Tawana Frazier, a nutritionist at Springfield Greene County Health. "They're helping to save the lives of medically fragile infants in our local NICUs." The milk depot serves as a drop-off point for screen donors approved to contribute their stored milk. It opened in 2013 through a partnership between Springfield Greene County Health and the Greater Ozarks Regional Breastfeeding Coalition. Once collected, the milk is shipped to the Milk Bank, a nonprofit that processes, tests, pasteurizes, and distributes donor milk to NICUs, hospitals, and families statewide. Parents who want to donate can apply through themilkbank.org, where applicants undergo a required health screening before approval. Donors then schedule appointment-based drop-offs at the Milk Depot. The Milk Depot does not distribute milk directly. Families seeking donor milk can apply through the Milk Bank to receive processed and safely pasteurized milk for their infants.
And coming to us from the Springfield Daily Citizen and Joe Hadsall, Kickapoo students plan a walkout in support of the area's immigrants. Another student-led walkout will be held at a Springfield high school to show support for immigrants living in the Springfield area. The walkout will be held at 10:55 a.m. Thursday at Kickapoo High School, provided school is back in session. Organizer and senior Kylie Edwards said the motivation was to stand with immigrants and their families in the face of increased enforcement. Edwards said experiences and relationships with close friends, including immigrants, tied to her school pushed her to organize the action. "One of my best friends who is helping organize it is actually an immigrant," Edwards said. "I'm very close with her and her whole family, and they have faced a lot of backlash that's coming from this. I'm friends with other people at Kickapoo who have had firsthand experiences with this, which makes me that much more passionate about the issue." Edwards said she hopes to see as many as 200 students participate. The walkout is similar to one organized last week at Central High School. Students will remain on campus for the entirety of the event, and members of the public school will not be allowed on campus. Stephen Hall, Chief Communications Officer for the district, said similar walkouts have also been held recently at Hillcrest and Parkview High Schools. Similar to those walkouts, Kickapoo students have been asked to adhere to policies for student conduct. The First Amendment protects the free speech rights of all Americans, including the rights of students in the public schools, Hall said. These rights, however, are not unlimited and must conform to legal, ethical, social, and school district norms and expectations which assist with ensuring student safety and with ensuring an environment that is conducive to learning. According to district policies, such walkouts must have guidance and input from school leaders, be peaceful, courteous, and professional, complying with behavior guidelines and expectations, be free of disruptions to learning environments, be appropriate for age and grade level of participants, be held on the school's property, and plan a quick return to classes once ended. Edwards said after working with Principal Bill Powers, their walkout has been scheduled for chief time, a period of about 30 minutes where students have free reign of their activities. Instead of a targeted message opposing aggressive tactics associated with the Trump administration's immigration enforcement, participants will advocate for supporting the region's immigrants. Seeing reports of unfolding actions across the country in the context of her own community inspired Edwards to organize. "It had a lot to do with personal experiences with people at my school, but also on the media, watching people dying and families being torn apart," Edwards said. "It really just kind of struck something in me. I find it so important as a youth and as somebody with this privilege to speak my voice."
A Springfield entrepreneur has announced a campaign for a Missouri House seat. A local entrepreneur and teacher announced he's running for Republican Betsy Fogel's District 135 seat in Missouri's legislature. John Childs, a Springfield Democrat, is seeking to fill Vogel's seat in the 2026 election. Fogel is vacating her seat to run for State Senate District 30. Childs is a Springfield native who attended Glendale High School and graduated from Missouri State University in 2008. Quote, "I'm running for office because I believe in America and have great hope for our country, our city of Springfield, and the state of Missouri," Childs said in a news release. "The people of Missouri are smart, dedicated, and hardworking. They care about their families and want a better life for their kids. Unfortunately, they're barely getting by. The cost of health care is unbearable, and families are having to choose between health insurance and child care, health care and rent, healthcare and groceries. We must do better." Childs also earned a Master's of Business Administration from the University of Redlands Presidio School, where he is currently a part-time faculty member. I became a teacher because I believe in people. Education, vocational training, and apprenticeships are crucial to helping our young people and professionals adapt to and solve tremendous challenges of the next decade. We have outstanding universities and technical schools in Springfield and the best public school system in Missouri. We need leaders in the Missouri House that see educational spending for what it is, a smart investment in a hopeful and resilient future, Chiles said in the release. He is the founder of Ember Sound, an art speaker company that uses native Ozark hardwoods. Chiles also previously worked for a Seattle company that reduced negative environmental impacts before returning to the Ozarks in 2018. Chiles and his father Mike co-founded Ozarks Renewal, an agriculture and business consulting company that explores the feasibility of community-owned greenhouses warmed by data center waste heat. Springfield is a remarkably collaborative community. We see problems and we work to solve them, John Chiles said in the press release. Small business is an engine of that problem solving. We deserve a state government that reflects those values. Prior to this campaign, Chiles canvassed for Democratic Party candidates in Springfield. His current endorsements include Fogel and former Springfield Mayor Jim O'Neill, who is serving as his campaign treasurer, according to the release.
We have a few obituaries coming to us this week from the Springfield News-Leader. Eden F. Greer, 82, passed away on January 25th. Arrangements provided by Gorman Scharf Funeral Home. There's a private family graveside, Memorial Park in Branson, Missouri. Peggy Day Lee, age 90, passed away January 26th. Arrangements provided by Gorman Scharf Funeral Home. And finally, we have Robert Hodgson Jr., beloved husband, father, grandfather, scholar, and friend, died on January 17, 2026, at the age of 82. Bob was born on July 13, 1943, in Seattle, Washington, to Eileen Campbell and Robert Hodgson Sr. He grew up in the shadow of the Hanford nuclear site, where his father was a banker for the new military town of Richland, Washington. He graduated from Richland High School in 1961 and earned a BA in theology from Gonzaga University, where he met the love of his life, Mary Downs. They were married in June of 1965 at Sacred Heart Church in Coronado, California. Bob continued his studies at Marquette University, earning an MA in theology, and in 1967 moved with Mary to Germany to pursue doctoral work. He applied to the THD program of Heidelberg University and was rejected because he was Catholic. After a vote by the Lutheran faculty, Bob was admitted and became the first Catholic to graduate from its religious studies department since the Protestant Reformation. These years shaped both his scholarship and his lifelong humility, curiosity, and respect for differing traditions. After earning his doctorate in theology, Bob taught at St. Andrew's Theological Seminary in the Philippines, where the family lived from 1977 to 1980. Those years immersed them in missionary and humanitarian work during a period of martial law, deepening Bob's compassion and appreciation for resilience amid hardship. In 1980, the family returned to the United States, and Bob began a long career as a New Testament scholar at Missouri State University, where he was beloved by both students and colleagues. In 1990, he joined the American Bible Society in New York City, helping bridge biblical storytelling and contemporary media and serving as a thoughtful voice on religion and culture on national and international media. After retirement, Bob and Mary settled in Columbia, Missouri, where Bob enjoyed painting with his daughter Jenny and creative writing with support from friends in his writing workshops. His novel trilogy, The Androgyny Papyrus, draws from the many journeys he and Mary shared around the world. Bob was preceded in death by his parents and his grandson, Campbell Phillips. He is survived by his wife, Mary, daughters Mary Phillips and Jenny McGee, son Robert Hodgson III, grandchildren Price Phillips, Kate Hodgson, John McGee, and Emma McGee, sisters Carol Newbert, Beverly Ward, Teresa Ortega, Marie Darrow, brothers Jim Hodgson and Rick Hodgson, all of Washington State, and many nieces and nephews. Bob will be remembered for his intellect, humor, and sense of adventure, but most of all for his gentleness, humility, and the sincere care he showed to others. A private family interment will be held in the spring. In lieu of flowers, contributions may be made to the Columbia chapter of the Missouri Writers Guild, P.O. Box 7795, Columbia, Missouri 65205, or the Footloose Sailing Association at 7683 Southeast 27th Street, PMB number 239, Mercer Island, Washington, 98040.
Architects say a Springfield Convention Center should have, quote, no dark days with year-round local bookings. Based in Kansas City and operating around the world, architectural firm Populous Inc. will lead visioning workshops for the proposed Springfield Convention and Events Center today. The workshop is slated this evening for 5:30 to 7 at the Discovery Center of Springfield. Populous projects include the $2.3 billion Las Vegas Sphere, a 20,000-person music and entertainment arena that is spherical in shape with an outer envelope consisting of an LED screen, as well as high-profile builds like Wembley Stadium in the United Kingdom, and the Tom Bradley International Terminal at Los Angeles International Airport. Tim Rosenberry, the city's Director of Quality of Place Initiatives, said the contract with Populous is in the range of $300,000 to $400,000 for the initial planning phase, including the envisioning workshop scheduled tonight and a subsequent one planned for mid-February. Rosenberry said that if the project advances pending April voter approval of a 3% lodging tax to fund construction, Populous would have the design contract. Rosenberry said construction of the convention center will likely end up in the $120 million range, with the $175 million total project cost, subtracting professional expenses and land acquisition. He said architectural design will land somewhere between 7 to 10% of the project cost, meaning it could be as much as $10 million. Rosenberry added that exact terms of the Populous contract are still being worked on. Complete information on companies that submitted qualifications and exact contract figures were not available at the time of this report. 9 firms submitted qualifications, and the city interviewed a short list of 4 teams. Populous met the mark, Rosenberry said. The pre-design work is being funded through reserves from the city's existing hotel and motel tax, an allocation of $750,000 approved by council in October of 2025 for convention center planning, design, and construction. Quote, this will allow the city to contract with various providers in this endeavor to begin both the pre-design and the pre-construction phases. The city staff explanation to the council bill reads in part, the city intends to reimburse itself for these costs once financing is secured on the event center. Cora Scott, the city's Director of Public Information and Civic Engagement, suggested a Sunshine Law information request as the fastest way to obtain information on architectural firms that made it to the finalist stage, and Springfield Business Journal submitted such a request on January 23rd. Populous officials said Springfield-based SAP Design Associates Architects, Inc., which is a second office in Kansas City, is its local partner. Project for the future. Rosenberry said visioning needs to think beyond the present moment. Quote, we've got to build a facility that doesn't look at right now. We've got to build a facility that looks into the future, he said. The center was recommended by city consultants Hundred Strategic Partners, Inc., in the Chicago-based firm's 4th study since 2011 of Springfield's capacity for a convention center, according to past SBJ reporting. Rosenberry said the team would be challenging information from the Hunden report by consulting different groups like people who book conventions. They can talk to the architects about what their more detailed needs are, and the architects can challenge them back about, well, what are those things that really make a difference for you, so that we don't do default thinking about a big box and a gussied up box as a ballroom, but instead that we really rethink what a convention center should be, Rosenberry said. A convention center alone doesn't fit the mandate, Rosenberry said, of making something that will be a great fit for the future and is not solely based on the past. Quote, we need to make sure that we go in with really clear thinking about what a convention center in Springfield should be, Rosenberry said. That's why we were impressed that these national leaders, actually global leaders from paradoxically Kansas City, were among the people interested in doing this project. He added that after 2 visioning workshops, a rendering by Populous is anticipated. Colleen Cassidy, assistant principal and project design manager, said the Springfield Convention and Events Center is special for Populous, which does projects all over the world. We're so excited to have one in our state that we can actually just drive to and be right there with you guys at all times, she said. She added that her role is to serve as a guardian of the local vision for the center. Quote, we make sure that the right voices are in the room, she said. For us, this is a vision that outlasts the entirety of the project. It's my role to make sure that goes from start to finish with every decision we make, down from the first pen that hits the paper, all the way to the last nail that goes into the building. Populous officials took questions from Springfield News Media Friday afternoon, with SBJ asking them to name comparable projects for the Springfield Convention Center from the company that has designed internationally prominent structures. Ann Polish, Populous principal for Global Convention Center Design Practice, cited what he called right-sized facilities in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Wichita, and Milwaukee. When we're working in LA, no offense to LA, 95% of the people in Los Angeles have no idea that the convention center even exists, he said. Everyone in Springfield will know that the convention center exists, so that is a different set of rules that we have to bring to the game. I will say it's pressure, but it's healthy pressure for us to do what's right for the community. That's why we're here. According to Polish, smaller convention venues have a chance to be innovative. Quote, "We always joke that innovating in a convention center is like turning around a cruise ship," he said. "It moves very slow generally. There's a lot of government entities, and sometimes people don't want to take risks. But that's more the case in legacy destinations like Houston, Dallas, and Las Vegas," he said. "Cities like Springfield are ripe. They're at the cutting edge of being able to do something different," he said. "You guys are building a new facility. You have no baggage of an existing facility." He characterized the Hunden report as a jumping-off point for the project and not the last word on the subject. The report is just the first set of information that we need to start to interpret from a design, economic, cost standpoint, and just make sure that we're checking all the boxes, he said. "We're the ones at the table that are going to deliver this. We're the ones that are going to take all the risks on your behalf to hit your budget, to hit your goals." Local input is important. Information gained in the planning sessions will be important, Polish said. "This whole exercise is to explore what a modern convention center is for a community." He adds it's the Hunden report, and what are you going to build? What's the economic return? What can you build, but also how is it going to uplift the community? He called hospitality an ecosystem, from the airport to the Uber to the hotels and restaurants. "We've never seen it work where you just show the product," he said. "People need to be brought along, especially when there's a vote at hand, when there's a sales tax or a hotel tax. The community needs to understand the ecosystem and why this is important." He added that meeting planners and associations are looking to put their medium to small size shows in right-sized convention centers, what he called second-tier destinations like Wichita, Lincoln, Nebraska, Overland Park, Kansas, and Springfield. "We're seeing a product of smaller, more intimate facilities that are purpose-built for flexibility and community engagement." Polish said the community must feel as though it has access to a building that they've helped to plan and fund. He added that convention centers often play a quiet role as a community hub, and noted that across the nation, convention centers were important during the COVID-19 pandemic, with uses ranging from vaccination programs to school classes. Polish cited a specific Populous Convention Center project, the BMO Center in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The center won the 2025 American Architecture Award in the Exposition Center category. According to the website of the City of Calgary, the BMO Center expansion opened on time and on budget on June 5, 2024. The center, operated by the Calgary Stampede, is a venue for shows, events, and conferences. It first opened in 1982, and its expansion added 565,000 square feet to the existing 285,000 at a cost of $500 million. Reporting on the opening, Maclean's magazine noted 3 architecture firms, Populous, Stantec, and S2 Architecture, combined efforts on the building. Maclean states that the center had 500 conventions scheduled upon the completion of its expansion, and it adds that if bookings continue at the same rate, they'll add $100 million to the economy annually. For the smaller Springfield project, Polish said the visioning sessions will ensure that everyone has a seat at the table. There's a civic activation piece, he said. "This is working with you all and how you want to operate the building. Do we want to carve out a little bit of program for the community, like meeting rooms, co-working spaces, things like that the community has access to on a daily basis?" He said his firm was trying to book a site for its own visioning workshop in Springfield. "We kind of went back and forth. Where do we want to go? What do we want to use? Just because it's bigger than an architectural office meeting room," he said. "That should have a space in a modern convention center to do these community engagement things." Programming can also include things like dog parks, an on-site restaurant and bar, a walking track on the roof that's open to the public. "This is new spending in your city," he adds, messaging this kind of feedback loop of tourism to unlock additional funds for development, sidewalks, lighting, things like that. "I think that's the message, is really showing how this ecosystem is bigger than just people showing up to the convention center." Cassidy said the building should be used. "We have what's called no dark days. This building shouldn't sit dark if there's not a convention or something going on. Populous Divine Convention Centers have been used for youth sports like volleyball and gymnastics, weddings, graduations, family parties. That's what we want it to be. No dark days. It's being used 365. Let's host the farmers market there on Saturdays, she said. This all comes from community input that we can then program into the building.
Coming to us from the Springfield Daily Citizen and Jackie Ruwald, local homeless service providers brace for major funding cuts to permanent housing programs. As homeless service providers across the country grapple with new conditions and cuts to the Department of Housing and Urban Development's permanent housing programs, members of the local continuum of care, the Ozarks Alliance to End Homelessness, gave a presentation last week to educate the community about what's happening and the potential impact. The Trump administration's homelessness policy aims to cut support for long-term housing programs by shifting billions to short-term programs with stricter eligibility definitions and conditions. Those potential funding cuts to permanent housing programs would likely impact providers in Greene, Christian, and Webster counties to the tune of more than $1 million a year, according to information presented Friday, January 23rd. Following is a photo of Bob Ashley, the principal planner with the City of Springfield's Planning and Development Department, as he speaks at the Housing First Town Hall back on the 23rd at the Community Foundation of the Ozarks. A coalition of 20 states filed a lawsuit in November of 2025 against the new conditions and cuts to Housing First, the Department of Housing and Urban Development Permanent Housing Program. On December 23rd of 2025, a federal court issued a preliminary injunction requiring HUD to return to status quo ahead of a hearing. Though Missouri is not among those states suing the federal government, the Ozarks Alliance to End Homelessness hosted Friday's Housing First Town Hall to educate the community what will likely happen, both if the court's injunction remains in place or if the federal government wins the lawsuit. Community Foundation of the Ozarks president and CEO, Windsor Ken, encouraged attendees to focus on solutions rather than arguing about how we got here. Following is a photo of Ken as she spoke at the Housing First Town Hall back on the 23rd. If the court's injunction remains in place and funding for fiscal year 2024 projects is renewed, that funding has already been delayed for several months, said Emily Fessler with Community Partnership of the Ozarks. Even with the renewal, the lapse in funding creates operational strain for housing providers, including delayed rental assistance payments and challenges to maintaining current staffing levels, Fessler said. These gaps will increase the risk of housing instability for the people that are currently being served through these programs. If HUD wins the current lawsuit, the federal agency will return to implementing the changes promised. Under that framework, communities would compete under new funding tiers, revised priorities, and updated scoring criteria. This scenario introduces additional uncertainty as funding amounts and eligible activities would change significantly from prior years, Fessler told the room full of community leaders, elected officials, and service providers. Following is a photo of Emily Fessler with Community Partnership of the Ozarks, and Bob Ashley, the principal planner with the City of Springfield's Planning and Development Department, as they led the Housing First Town Hall on the 23rd at the Community Foundation of the Ozarks. Fessler, along with Bob Ashley, principal planner with Springfield's Planning and Development Department, led the presentation, which was held at Community Foundation of the Ozarks in downtown Springfield. Fessler spoke about the impacts not only to service providers and those currently in a HUD-funded permanent housing program, but to the entire community. She spoke about the impact on law enforcement, emergency rooms, and other first responders who will be face-to-face with more unsheltered people on a daily basis. Potentially losing 1 million in permanent housing units would place immediate and intense pressure on our rental market. Demands for rentals would surge overnight while supply would shrink, driving significant rent increases across all price points, she said. This would not only affect low-income renters, it would also affect middle-income households who would also be priced out. As increasing competition happens for fewer available units in our community, we would see increased housing instability, which would include more evictions, doubling up of families, and displacement into neighboring communities, Fessler said. The loss of permanent housing resources would significantly increase visible street homelessness in commercial corridors, downtown, neighborhoods, and business districts. When homelessness becomes more visible, that changes how people utilize our public spaces. Housing First is an evidence-based model for addressing homelessness that emphasizes permanent housing with supportive services. In Springfield, the Kitchen Inc. adopted Housing First in 2015 when it sold the Missouri Hotel, which was a transitional homeless shelter for more than 30 years. The kitchen placed the 130 residents in apartments and rental homes throughout the community and supported them with case management and other services as they worked toward independence. The Trump administration's new priorities for HUD funds will emphasize short-term interventions such as street outreach and transitional housing rather than housing first initiatives. To qualify, clients will have work requirements. There would be changes to the disability definition to include only physical and developmental disabilities. Mental illness and substance use disorder will no longer be considered a disability. The new plan will focus on involuntary commitments to institutions, substance use beds, and on-site substance use treatment, and possibly automatic disqualification for agencies that ever participated in harm reduction, according to information provided Friday.
New Maplewood Villas project expands affordable housing for seniors. The Kitchen Inc. opened Maplewood Villas 2, a new affordable housing project for seniors, on January 22nd. According to a community announcement, the development is designed to support low-income and formerly homeless seniors, particularly veterans. Maplewood Villas 2 is at 3905 West Maple. The property features 32 units, each with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom for residents ages 55 and older. All units are ground floor accessible. 8 units are reserved specifically for homeless veterans and some earmarked for extremely low-income residents. And what follows is a picture of a group of smiling people as the Kitchen Inc. opened Maplewood Villas. That's happened on January 22nd. The next headline reads, Shared amenities will benefit residents. Residents of Maplewood Villas 2 have access to amenities such as green spaces and a community building that includes a pavilion. The community building serves as a gathering space, offers a computer lab with internet access, and provides office space for caseworkers and community partners. According to the announcement, the Kitchen Inc. will have an on-site case manager to assist residents, connect them with resources, and organize community building events. Maplewood Villas is described as a service-enriched development aimed at helping residents maintain their housing and avoid a return to homelessness. Public and private funding for the project. The project received funding from several resources, including the Missouri Housing Development Commission, Bank of Missouri, City of Springfield, MHED, and Advantage Capital. For more information about the Kitchen Inc., you can find that at thekitcheninc.org.
And coming to us from Britannica today, in history, January 28th, some of us may remember this, a dark day in space exploration. The night before the Challenger space shuttle was slated to take off on its 10th mission, a cold wave swept through Florida. By morning, the launch pad was covered in a layer of ice. Barely over a minute after the shuttle had blasted off at 11:38 a.m., television audiences across the United States witnessed the craft break apart in a fiery explosion. What was meant to be a joyous moment instantly became one of the greatest tragedies in American space history. There were no survivors among the 7 crew members. The main cabin, along with wings and other shuttle parts, continued upward after the explosion and then fell into the Atlantic Ocean. The launch had greater viewership than a typical flight. Krista McAuliffe, a 37-year-old social studies teacher, had won a competition to be part of the Challenger crew and was planning to teach students lessons from space. The crew also included Francis R. Scobie, Michael J. Smith, Ronald McNair, Gregory B. Jarvis, Ellison S. Onizuka, and Judith A. Resnick. So what went wrong? The culprit was an O-ring, a small rubber device used to seal adjacent parts of the spacecraft. In this case, the cold temperatures in Florida that January had caused the shuttle's O-rings to become highly brittle. Because they could not expand to accommodate for adjoining parts, hot exhaust gas was able to move past them and set the rocket's fuel tank ablaze. Space exploration comes with risks, of course, but most Americans couldn't fathom such a disaster, especially in the context of such a highly publicized mission. It was only after tragedy that investigations revealed NASA's numerous oversights. The faulty O-rings had been deemed an acceptable risk, and engineers who warned against flying in such frigid temperatures had been ignored. NASA's budget had also been reduced, leading to cutbacks when it came to safety measures. Because of what happened with Challenger, NASA overhauled itself. The agency created a new safety office. It also reconfigured the rocket boosters that had caused the fuel tank to go up in flames, adding extra safeguards to prevent O-ring failure. After an almost 3-year hiatus, NASA resumed its shuttle flights, but its reputation was never the same. By the numbers, 73 seconds is the time into which the time into flight at which the shuttle exploded. 32 months is the Space Shuttle program hiatus after the disaster, and 11,000 plus applicants, from which Krista McAuliffe was chosen. Also on this day today, in 1813, Jane Austen published Pride and Prejudice anonymously. In 1915, the U.S. Coast Guard was formally established, and in 1958, the Lego Group submitted a patent for its iconic building block.
Well, after a surge in flu cases after the holiday season, Cox Health said they are still seeing a high number of flu cases. They're encouraging everyone over 6 months old to get their flu vaccination this season. According to Kelly Pittman, the manager of employee health at Cox Health, they're also seeing another illness circulating. We are seeing some pertussis, so I would just say with the resurgence of measles this year and pertussis, these are all things that can be taken care of with a vaccination, said Pittman. According to the CDC, babies under 1 year are the most at risk for getting whooping cough and having severe complications from it. Pittman said parents should be able to hear the difference in their child's cough. Quote, I've seen it to the point where a child will wake up to cough and then is so tired from coughing that they'll just immediately go back to sleep, said Pittman. It's a whole body cough that sounds kind of like a bark. According to the CDC, it is easily spread from person to person through droplets when a person sneezes or coughs. People can spread the bacteria from the start of symptoms to at least 2 weeks after the coughing begins. Antibiotics can be administered to shorten the time someone is contagious, but Pittman said the most effective tool against pertussis is the vaccine. The DTaP vaccine is administered in several rounds of shots, starting at 2 months old and continuing through 6 years old. After that, the Tdap vaccine is given for those 11 years old through adulthood. And in other news, Route 66 Visitor Center is moving closer to Park Central Square. Springfield is getting a new and improved visitor welcome center, this time closer to the square, as I just mentioned. Visiting Springfield, formerly Springfield Convention and Visitors Bureau, will be moving its Route 66 Visitor Center to 318 Park Central East at the bottom of the U building at the corner just across from Galois Theater. And what follows is a picture of the current Springfield Visitor Center on St. Louis Street. Visit Springfield President Mark Hickwit said the new space will be larger than the current Welcome Center at the base of the Jordan Valley Car Park at 815 East St. Louis Street, providing roughly 1,700 square feet of space. The current space will continue to house the Visit Springfield offices, at least for now. Future plans for the current space, Hickwit said, are not yet decided. Quote, we wanted to be closer to downtown, closer to more foot traffic, he said. We have thousands of people who come to us into our Welcome Center. We wanted them to, get out and go downtown. We find too often that they just sometimes perhaps just get in their cars and keep on driving. And we see next a picture of Springfield's future new Visitor Welcome Center on Park Central East. While the Jordan Valley Car Park is adjacent to the city-owned property where the city has proposed building a new convention center and has begun property acquisition talks for additional land surrounding it, Hickwit said moving the Welcome Center was unrelated and coincidental to the city's plans. H Design Group is working on designing the new Welcome Center space to modernize it, bring in new technology, and provide for an overall better experience for all who stop by. Hickwit said the plan is to open at the new location in mid-March. The current visitor center will remain open until then. The mid-March goal will also mean the new Welcome Center will be ready in time for the 100th anniversary of Route 66 starting April 30th, which is expected to bring more attention and visitors to the Queen City as Springfield was selected to host the kickoff of the nationwide celebration. The new location off Park Central East will also be near the new Birthplace Plaza, set to commemorate Springfield's role as the birthplace of Route 66, featuring public art. Hickwit noted Visit Springfield will also renovate its visitor center within the Springfield-Branson National Airport.
And coming to us from the Springfield Daily Citizen and Jackie Ruwald, a man succumbs to his injuries from a house fire early Friday morning. A 65-year-old man has died after being seriously injured in a house fire last week. According to a news release, the Springfield Fire Department responded at 3 a.m. Friday, January 23rd to a residential fire in the 600 block of North Kansas Expressway. Firefighters found the house on fire and Paul Smart outside the home with burn injuries. Firefighters and EMS personnel provided immediate medical care before transporting Smart to Mercy Hospital. Smart succumbed to his injuries on Saturday, January 24th. The Bureau of Fire Prevention investigated the incident and determined the fire was accidental. This is the second fire fatality of 2026 in Springfield. In additional public order and safety news from Zoe McIntyre at the Springfield Daily Citizen, Greene County Sheriff's deputy was involved in a shooting north of Springfield. A deputy with the Greene County Sheriff's Office was involved in a shooting January 24th, according to a news release from the Sheriff's Office. Deputies responded to a report of a suicidal person in the 3700 block of North Bear Creek Avenue, north of Springfield off Highway 13, around 8:30 p.m. on January 24th. A woman answered the door, brandishing a firearm, and pointed it at a deputy, the release states. The deputy discharged his gun and struck the woman. Deputies rendered medical aid until the woman was transported to an area hospital, according to the release. The release does not contain more information on the woman's condition. No one else was injured. The sheriff's critical incident team, made up of detectives from Christian, Lawrence, and Webster counties, is investigating.
Volunteers will be out on the street tonight and all day tomorrow taking a survey on where people will be sleeping. This unsheltered population count is called the Everyone Counts campaign in Springfield, and the area is served by Community Partnership of the Ozarks. Still, it's a national effort mandated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's used to determine which programs will receive funding. This year, the cold is affecting that number a little bit. With cold weather shelters open, the people staying in them are counted as sheltered, even if they might be somewhere else on a warmer night. Federally, said Amy Fessler, the Continuum of Care Director at Community Partnership of the Ozarks, if someone is staying in a crisis cold weather shelter, they're considered sheltered, but we know that if the temperature were 34-40 degrees that evening, if it were unseasonably warm, that all those individuals staying in a cold weather shelter would be unsheltered. So locally, we also count the individuals as cold weather shelters because we know that those individuals would be experiencing unsheltered homelessness if it were a warm night. But still, it's only one data point that goes into this funding determination. So Fessler isn't too worried about it, especially with how much housing situations can change. Quote, since it's just one single night, she said, you can make as hard of a concerted effort to count as many people as possible, but the reality is you're going to miss people, and it's only a snapshot of people experiencing homelessness. It doesn't count those families that are doubled up in situations that are maybe couch surfing, and it's only one single night. We know that homelessness and housing instability change day by day. Nearly 60 volunteers will be helping with the count at libraries, cold weather shelters, and resource centers. In their training, they're taught to ask everyone, no matter what images or stereotypes exist for someone who may be unsheltered. A huge part of our training is talking to the volunteers about not assuming, Fessler said. I think sometimes we have this image in our head about people who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness, and I think the reality of the situation is that it's not always true. So what we do, especially at some of these public locations, what we encourage volunteers to do is use the language about a housing survey. Good morning, good afternoon. We're doing a housing survey. Where did you sleep last night? Participants in the survey will be receiving a goodie bag filled with resources such as socks, bus passes, snacks, water, and toilet paper.
And coming to us from the Springfield Business Journal, we have Open for Business, Rise Apothecary. After starting in early 2022 as a healthy drink shop, Republic Business Rise Apothecary LLC has expanded its products alongside a name, ownership, and location change within the past few months. January 9th was the grand opening for the new 1,200 square foot location for the venture, previously named Rise Nutrition, at 315 U.S. Highway 60 East, Suite D, said owners Alex and Mikhail Atanuk. Alex Atanuk said he and his wife became owners of the business on October 1st, having purchased it for an undisclosed price from a trio of sisters, Shelby Cotter, Brittany Davajon, and Ashley Will. The shop was previously at 1652 U.S. Highway 60 East in the town east center. Rise Apothecary has refill stations for products such as soaps and shampoos. It also now offers products for body care, child wellness, and hair care. Additionally, it continues to sell healthy energy drinks and protein shakes. Startup costs for the new location were roughly $40,000, Antonuk said, declining to disclose the 5-year lease rate with landlord Victor Pollock. Their phone number is 417-571-9785, or you can visit them on the web at riseapothecary.com. December 17th was the soft opening date for Hatch and Harvest Cafe, LLC, at 2833 West Chestnut Expressway. The new breakfast and lunch cafe, owned by Shkodran Donnie Veliu, age 24, fills space formerly occupied by the Phoenix Diner Bar and Grill and earlier Missouri Mike's Barbecue and More. Being a restaurateur in his family background, Veliu said, adding Hatch and Harvest is the first venture he's taken on as sole owner. Veliu said the menu was intended to be pretty casual with a number of classic plates, including omelets, along with a newer kind of style dishes, such as multigrain pancakes and the El Tapia breakfast bowl, which includes chorizo, jalapeno, tomato, green pepper, onion, and queso served over crispy home fries and topped with avocado and 2 eggs cooked any style. Most entrees range $7 to $14. Veliu said Hatch and Harvest employs around 12 workers, noting his investment in the business is between $80,000 and $100,000. He said he signed a 3-year lease for an undisclosed rate with Westway Shopping Center, LLC. The phone number is 417-771-5242, or you can visit them on the web at hatchandharvestcafe.toast.site. That's S-I-T-E. A $13.5 million hotel construction project of a new brand from Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, Inc., is finished near Springfield Branson National Airport. David Harari, founder and CEO of Miami, Florida-based Bloom Ventures, said his investment management firm, which owns the hotel and property, was able to begin taking reservations for Echo Suites Extended Stay by Wyndham Springfield Airport Plaza on December 16th. The hotel's opening at 3471 West Kearny Street was several weeks ahead of Harari's previous February 2026 estimate. Harari said Osage Beach-based Thomas Construction was general contractor for the 50,000 square foot, 124-room Echo Suites Hotel, adding it is the first of the new Wyndham brand to open in Missouri. The concept features dog-friendly suites with full-size refrigerators and cooktops, laundry facilities, a fitness center, and electric vehicle chargers. The site is located immediately adjacent to Bloom Ventures' La Quinta Inn and Suites by Wyndham Springfield Airport Plaza, which the company bought in late 2022. Their phone number is 417-591-9029, or you can find them on the web at wyndhamhotels.com/echo-suites.
And you're listening to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. We hope you'll come by and see us in person for those daily deals at 2713 North Kansas Expressway in Springfield, Missouri. Veterans receive a 25% discount every day, providing significant savings as just a token of appreciation for their service. And additionally, the store features a weekly clothing sale where all clothing items are available at 50% off every Wednesday. Seniors age 55 and older benefit from a 25% discount Tuesdays, making shopping more affordable for the senior community. And Galloway resident has dropped a subdivision referendum lawsuit against the city, a lawsuit filed in 2025 after the Springfield City Clerk rejected a referendum petition has been dismissed by the resident. Dan Clark, a resident who's lived adjacent to the proposed subdivision, has voluntarily dismissed the lawsuit he filed in May of 2025. The lawsuit sought to compel City Clerk Anita Cotter to accept the referendum petition that challenged a subdivision plat in the Galloway Village neighborhood. The lawsuit had been on pause since late August when the developer adjusted plans for the proposed subdivision. Nearly a year ago, February 2025, Springfield City Council approved the preliminary plat for a 40 single-family residential subdivision across 8.7 acres, dubbed Chimney Rock, planned by JCRS Development, LLC. The proposed project abuts the existing Chimney Hills and Chimney Hills Place subdivisions, and due to the higher number of lots, would include 2 access points placed off of a cul-de-sac on Arcadia Avenue and Mimosa Street. Neighbors were vehemently opposed to this proposal due to the connections to the street and the denser nature of the lots. And we see what follows as an aerial view of southeastern Springfield showing the proposed area for Chimney Rock, a 40-home development. Local residents gathered enough signatures for a referendum petition. However, the clerk rejected the petition, arguing the referendum process did not apply to administrative actions such as a subdivision plat. This was the same line of reasoning the city attorney had shared with council ahead of its vote, indicating the preliminary plat process was a ministerial duty, taking the elected body to ensure the proposal follows the regulations without much room for discretion. The lawsuit did not get any more answers, however. The developer submitted adjusted plans in early fall that included fewer lots and removed the connection to the local subdivision street, which were ultimately approved again by council. Since that adjustment, the lawsuit had been at a standstill till now. The voluntary dismissal was filed by Clark's attorneys January 22nd, though the court documents do not reveal a reason for the dismissal. The referendum and subsequent lawsuit raised questions about how the city charter, which acts as the city's constitution, lays out situations in which the residents can petition. The charter does not include an explicit exemption saying administrative decisions are not subject to referendum petition, instead noting a referendum applies to, quote, any ordinance passed by the council. This is not the only time the broad language of the city's charter has been brought into question regarding the referendum process. Now, a bill filed in the Missouri House of Representatives could explicitly remove Springfield residents' ability to challenge rezoning decisions via referendum. The bill has been read in the House twice on introduction, but has not yet been scheduled to be reviewed in committee.
And Ahmed Jawadi with the Springfield News-Leader wants you to know why is your car shaking and how the winter storm may be to blame. As if having to clean up all of the snow left behind by this past weekend's monster winter storm wasn't bad enough, now your car is driving funny as you make your way to work. For whatever reason, your morning commute now feels a little less smooth and only gets worse at higher speeds. What is causing your vehicle to shake while you're driving? Is it the road? Is your car not warm enough? While there could be several reasons, one of the first things to consider is the storm itself. A heavy snowfall may be what's behind your car's shaky behavior, especially if the shaking just started. Snow and ice could have built up in your wheels during the storm, and the extra weight has now thrown off the wheel balance, in turn causing your car to vibrate, according to Silco Honda. Where you feel the vibration can be a sign of where the ice buildup is located. If you feel your steering wheel shaking, that could reveal that ice is on your front tires. If you feel your seat shaking, there may be ice buildup on your rear tires. There are a couple of options you can try to fix your car shaking in the snow. While wearing gloves, you can dig out the snow and ice from the wheel by hand. You can also use hot water to remove ice and snow if there's only a light accumulation. You can also simply wait for the snow and ice to melt if it's proving too difficult to remove by hand. If your vehicle continues to shake even after clearing out any buildup in your wheels, then you may have a more serious issue. Contact your mechanic as soon as possible to rule out any other potential issues.
And from the Springfield News-Leader, here's an interesting Doomsday Clock 2026 update. Says apocalypse is closer than ever. The human race is at its closest point yet to destroying itself, according to a reset of the ominous but symbolic Doomsday Clock. And humanity is continuing to move closer, scientists said yesterday. The human race is at its closest point yet to destroying itself, according to the result of the Doomsday Clock. The metaphorical clock now stands at 85 seconds to midnight after advancing 4 seconds since last year's reset. The clock is now the closest to midnight since its introduction in 1947. It's updated each year by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, which organizes the assessment of how close we are to a self-inflicted end of humanity. Next headline reads, Failure of Leadership. Citing a worldwide failure of leadership, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists Science and Security Board set the Doomsday Clock at 85 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been to catastrophe. The Doomsday Clock's message could not be clearer, Alexandra Bell, President and CEO, Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists said. Catastrophic risks are on the rise, cooperation is on the decline, and we're running out of time. Change is both necessary and possible, but the global community must demand swift action from their leaders. According to the bulletin, our current trajectory is unsustainable. National leaders, particularly those in the United States, Russia, and China, must take the lead in finding a path away from the brink. Citizens must insist that they do so. And what follows is a picture of different doomsday clock times through the years and how they have adjusted the seconds and why. What is the doomsday clock? It's a metaphor for how close humanity is to self-annihilation, and it serves as a call to action to find solutions to the world's most urgent, human-made existential threats to move the hands of the clock away from midnight, according to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. What time is it on the doomsday clock? The next headline reads, The iconic clock is now at 85 seconds to midnight. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists announced January 27th via an online news conference from Washington, D.C. And the headline asks, what did the 2025 Doomsday Clock tell us? It was moved 4 seconds closer than it was a year ago when it was set to 89 seconds. Last year, the clock was moved ahead because the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists deemed the world less safe and less stable than it was a year earlier. Dan Holes, chair of the Bulletin Science and Security Board, told USA Today. Quote, arms control treaties are in tatters and there are active conflicts involving nuclear powers, he said, and misinformation, disinformation, and conspiracies are a, quote, threat multiplier. Is the clock accurate? People have been predicting the end of the world probably since its dawning. Most recently, the world was supposed to have ended in September of 2025. The doomsday clock is different in that it is meant to be purely symbolic and does not offer a specific prediction of end times, but rather an assessment of the global dangers by some of the world's leading scientists. The Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists was founded by University of Chicago scientists who had helped develop the first nuclear weapons for the Manhattan Project. How does it work? Each year, the members of the Science and Security Board are asked two questions. Is humanity safer or at greater risk this year than last year? And is humanity safer or at greater risk compared with the 79 years the clock has been set? Their answers set the clock for the coming year. Why was it moved closer to midnight? The dangerous trends in nuclear risk, climate change, disruptive technologies like AI, and biosecurity are accompanied by another frightening development, the rise of nationalist autocracies in countries around the world, said Daniel Holes, professor of the University of Chicago and Science and Security Board chairman, Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, in a statement. Our greatest challenge requires international trust and cooperation, and a world splintering into us versus them will leave all of humanity more vulnerable. According to the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists a year ago, quote, we warned that the world was perilously close to global disaster and that any delay in reversing course increased the probability of catastrophe. Rather than heed this warning, the bulletin said that Russia, China, the United States, and other major countries have instead become increasingly aggressive, adversarial, and nationalistic. Hard-won global understandings are collapsing, accelerating a winner-takes-all great power competition, and undermining the international cooperation critical to reducing the risks of nuclear war, climate change, the misuse of biotechnology, the potential threat of artificial intelligence, and other apocalyptic dangers. Far too many leaders have grown complacent and indifferent, in many cases adopting rhetoric and policies that accelerate rather than mitigate these existential risks. And what follows is a picture of the clock itself, showing that it is 85 seconds to midnight. How did it start? In 1945, on the anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor, scientists who had worked on the Manhattan Project, which built the world's first atomic bombs, began publishing a mimeograph newsletter called the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists. 2 years later, as those same scientists contemplated a world in which 2 atomic weapons had been used in Japan, they gathered to discuss the threat to humanity posed by nuclear war. Martin Langsdorff, an artist and the wife of Manhattan Project physicist Alexander Langsdorff Jr., came up with the idea of a clock showing just how close things were, and they called it the Doomsday Clock. What can be done? Well, even as the hands of the doomsday clock move closer to midnight, many actions could pull humanity back from the brink, the bulletin said. Those actions include the United States and Russia can resume dialogue about limiting their nuclear arsenals. All nuclear-armed states can avoid destabilizing investments in missile defense and observe the existing moratorium on explosive nuclear testing. Through both multilateral agreements and national regulations, the international community can take all feasible steps to prevent the creation of mirror life and cooperate on meaningful measures to reduce the prospect that AI can be used to create biological threats. The United States Congress can repudiate President Trump's war on renewable energy, instead providing incentives and investments that will enable rapid reduction in fossil fuel usage. And the United States, Russia, and China can engage in bilateral and multilateral dialogue on meaningful guidelines regarding the incorporation of artificial intelligence in their militaries, particularly in nuclear command and control systems.
In political news out of the Springfield News-Leader, Missouri abortion rights trial concludes, but the decision is months away. After 10 days of often emotion-filled testimony, a trial dissecting Missouri's abortion regulations under the new constitutional right to reproductive health care concluded on Monday, January 26th. In closing arguments, attorneys from both the Missouri Attorney General's office and Planned Parenthood brought the focus back to the crux of the case. Are Missouri's abortion regulations necessary safeguards for women or discriminatory roadblocks for patients? In a final attempt to cast doubt on the validity of the case, Peter Donahue, Deputy Solicitor General for Missouri, argued that Planned Parenthood had not met Missouri's high legal burden needed to nullify state laws in total. Following is a photo of the recovery room at the Planned Parenthood Great Plains office in Overland Park, Kansas, taken back on June 21st, 2024. Jackson County Circuit Judge Jerry Zhang gave both parties until April 10th to file post-trial briefs. She urged them to opine on the burden of proof argument, which was recently addressed by the Missouri Supreme Court in a separate constitutional case on the state's gender-affirming care ban for minors. The outcome of this month's trial will determine the accessibility of abortion across the state before Missourians are asked to vote on whether they want to again ban the procedure in November. Donahue defended the regulations as protecting women from unsafe abortion providers, which he accused of having a history, quote, fraught with harms to women. Even if current Planned Parenthood clinics provided safe care, as they testified, he said the state must think about any provider who might provide abortion care in the future. If they're safe, he argued, these requirements don't burden them. But attorneys for Planned Parenthood spent days of testimony laying out how each regulation left clinics hamstrung to provide abortions. These regulations, introduced over the past few decades, increasingly drove Missourians out of state to get abortions. Planned Parenthood providers and staff recounted the toll the regulations took on patients left unable to access abortion quickly and close to home. These few dozen targeted regulations of abortions, or TRAP laws, are currently in state statute. Planned Parenthood and the ACLU of Missouri filed a lawsuit asking a judge to deem the laws unconstitutional after voters approved the Abortion Rights Amendment in November 2024. Some were temporarily enjoined last year, allowing procedural abortions to resume. All these laws target abortions in a unique way, Vanessa Pye Thompson, an attorney with Planned Parenthood Federation of America, said in her closing argument, and a unique way that is now also an unconstitutional way. These regulations include required distribution of Missouri's informed consent booklet prior to an abortion, a 72-hour waiting period between an initial appointment and an abortion, abortion facility licensing requirements, a ban on prescribing medication abortion via telehealth, and mandatory pelvic exams prior to a medication abortion. Pye Thompson said, although abortion is essential health care, it remains regulated by state laws that are now discriminatory under the new amendment. Pye Thompson then pointed back to a timeline showing decades of Missouri's restrictions that have limited access. Following is a photo of a large stack of very thick binders as they are wheeled into the hallway of the Jackson County Courthouse on Monday the 26th at the conclusion of a 10-day-long trial. 2 decades ago, several thousand abortions were performed in Missouri annually, according to state health department data. By 2021, the year before abortion was outlawed in Missouri, there were only 151 as a result of the TRAP laws. But many women still have abortions. In 2024, nearly 12,000 women went to Kansas and Illinois to end their pregnancies. The state was the only side to call women to testify about their abortions, most of whom said they went on to regret them. This included a woman on Monday, January 26th, who said she obtained 2 medication abortions from the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Columbia in 2012 and 2015, the second of which was followed by an emergency surgery to remove fetal tissue. The exact details of her medical issue were not detailed during her brief testimony. Pye Thompson in closings characterized the state's expert witnesses, which included a parade of doctors who oppose abortion, as unreliable advocates. She underscored the medical consensus among leading medical organizations that abortion is safe, telling the judge that abortions pose less risk than pregnancy or childbirth. Testimony from Planned Parenthood earlier in the trial detailed that roughly 1% of the more than 53,000 Missourians who received abortions over the last 10 years in Illinois and Kansas experienced complications ranging from infection to incomplete abortions to hemorrhaging. Planned Parenthood began the trial with Dr. Margaret Baum, Chief Medical Officer with Planned Parenthood Great Rivers. She returned to the stand January 26 to dispute the state's characterization of women seeking abortions as being uncertain about their decision and easily coerced into abortion. I find that infantilizing my patients and of women in general, Baum said. Most of my patients who present for abortions already have been pregnant or already have children. They know exactly what it means to be pregnant. Baum also disagreed with assertions from state witnesses that women often regret their abortions. She said her patients most frequently express relief, and when she tells people about her work in social settings, she hears abortion stories from other women who express gratitude. The most common thing people have said to me is thank you, Baum said. My abortion saved my life.
Well, major road work, including a roundabout, is planned for Bolivar. Bolivar could be getting their first roundabout along with the new road to ease traffic congestion. Quote, I think that for the growth of Bolivar, we need to really look at how we can reroute traffic to get over to the east side of town. Said a Bolivar resident. Bolivar is currently in talks with the Missouri Department of Transportation on a large-scale road project that would include a roundabout at the intersection of Missouri Routes D and 32. Community Development Director Kyle Lee says a signal light wasn't an option. Quote, they informed us that a roundabout would be the only approved intersection improvement in this location. So ultimately, it wasn't a question for the city of whether we should do this one or should we do that one, he said. Bud Sherman with MoDOT says traffic counts show a roundabout would work. There are less conflict points. People can travel around a roundabout easier. There's a continuous flow of traffic. When the school lets out, they'll be able to go where they need to go, he said. The overall plan doesn't just include a roundabout. It also calls for extending Pomme de Terre Road. It's that extension that has some people in the community concerned. Quote, you meet two big tractor trailers and there's no room for mistakes there, said Robin Burns. He lives near where Pomme de Terre Road would continue. He says the road is too narrow to support an increase in traffic. He said it's a nice, quiet area. We never once thought we'd have a bypass through here. So yeah, it was kind of a shock. But Lee says the impact on the area will be minimal. Quote, it's not contemplating any changes to 132nd in that area. There may be additional traffic, but that traffic is already able to access that road through the Buffalo connection at Missouri 32. It will be the most significant infrastructure addition to the community for sure in the last 20 years. The project's still in the early planning phases, and we'll keep you posted on any updates on that. And speaking of updates, the Kansas City Chiefs are waiting for tight end Travis Kelce to make his decision on whether to call it a career or return for another season. The man who's written checks to him for over a decade is very hopeful for more. Chiefs owner Clark Hunt made an appearance on NFL Network's Good Morning Football yesterday and was asked about Kelce's pending decision. Quote, well, as an organization, we certainly hope that he'll be back, Hunt said following Kelce's 13th NFL season. He had another great year, maybe not on par with where he was 4 or 5 years ago, but still had over 800 yards and really was one of the leaders on the offensive side of the ball for us. And what follows is a shot of Kelce bantering with his brother on a recent podcast and exiting one of the games. To Hunt's point, Kelce led the Chiefs in receptions, 76, yards, 851, and touchdown receptions, 5 for the 2025 season. To Hunt's point, Kelce led the, I just wrote that. There's no doubt in my mind that he can still play, Hunt said. We're trying to be respectful and let him have the time that he needs to make a decision. Hunt acknowledged that Kelce has a busy off-season with his engagement and soon-to-be marriage to music superstar Taylor Swift, and we want to be respectful, give him the time he needs to make the decision, but we certainly hope he'll be back, Hunt said. Last week, Kelce caught fans' attention with his praise for recently rehired Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy on his New Heights podcast. Kelce noted, quote, can't wait to see him back in the building, a comment that piqued fans' interest. Kelce will be turning 37 in October and was named a Pro Bowler for the 11th time in his career in 2025.
And we have some fancy holidays today. International Lego Day, Daisy Day, Data Privacy Day, National Blueberry Pancake Day, National Kazoo Day, National Gift of the Ladybug Day, Library Shelfie Day. Ought to be a good day to visit the library and get a photo in. And finally, Global Community Engagement Day. And if you're looking for a way to engage with your community, there is an opportunity here. New homelessness count invites unsheltered residents to be heard. A campaign to help better understand unsheltered homelessness in Greene, Christian, and Webster counties is currently underway, according to a community announcement. The 2026 Everyone Counts campaign, led by Community Partnership of the Ozarks and sponsored by Healthy Blue, collects surveys from people experiencing homelessness to guide local program development and strengthen funding for housing and supportive services. It's part of a nationwide count mandated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and provides critical data to help communities respond more effectively to local needs. Everyone Counts ensures that individuals experiencing homelessness are seen, heard, and represented in the data that shape services and resources across our region, Emily Fessler, CPO's Continuum of Care Director, said in the announcement. This is a great opportunity for people to volunteer and to make a real difference in our community. So who can participate? Anyone who is unsheltered on the night of January 28th, that is tonight, is encouraged to complete a survey including individuals or households sleeping outside or in a tent, in a vehicle, in an abandoned building, or in a place not meant for human habitation, according to the announcement. Surveys will be conducted the evening of January 28th and throughout the day, January 29th, tomorrow, at the following locations: New Day from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., City Utilities Transit Center from 8 a.m. to noon, Schweitzer Brentwood Library from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. and noon to 4 p.m., Park Central Library from 3 to 5 p.m., the Library Center from 8 a.m. to noon, Library Station from 10 to 11 a.m. and 1 to 2 p.m., the Veterans Coming Home Center from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and NAMI from 9:30 to 11 a.m. and 1 to 4 p.m. Surveys will also be conducted at crisis cold weather shelters and through intensive street outreach. Each person who completes a survey will receive a free tote bag with essential items such as socks, snacks, a water bottle, and hand warmers. Supplies are donated by community partners including Victory Mission, Rural Behavioral Health, Healthy Blue, and others. Volunteers are needed. Surveys are conducted by outreach teams from Rural Behavioral Health and Victory Mission, along with trained community volunteers. Volunteers receive training and are paired with experienced surveyors. CPO is still looking for volunteers for the event, and those interested in volunteering can sign up by emailing efessler@cpozarks.org, according to the announcement.
Well, Missouri roads have showed significant improvements after the snow covered almost the entire state over the weekend. The MoDOT Traveler Map showed snow across Missouri as of last Sunday morning. State crews deployed 1,400 plows, 2,400 drivers, and 20,000 tons of salt statewide to clear roadways. Now, most roads are now clear or mostly clear, according to MoDOT officials. Of course, just still take your time. The sun is coming out, and that has really helped chemicals working a lot more effectively. So a lot of progress has been made, according to Jimmy Shannon of MoDOT. The MoDOT and iDrive road maps focus only on roads managed by state road crews. The maps don't reflect conditions on smaller roads in neighborhoods or rural areas. And again, crews are continuing to urge drivers just to be careful and please take your time when traveling. And with this snow, it gave the Wonders of Wildlife penguins an opportunity for adventure. I love this. Freezing temperatures and several inches of snow did keep most of us indoors, but yesterday it proved to be the perfect day for the penguins from the local aquarium to leave their exhibit and take on an outdoor adventure. 17 Gintu penguins enjoyed the sunshine on their slick coats and snow under their web feet just outside of their home at the Wonders of Wildlife National Museum and Aquarium. Reese Sr., among the waddle at 32 years old, returned back to the exhibit where temperatures were a few degrees warmer after an hour or two of enjoying the winter weather. Mike Daniel, Director of Animal Care for the Johnny Morris Conservation Foundation, said the outdoor experience is a way to offer the animals more choices in their daily lives. And what follows is the Wonders of Wildlife penguins enjoying Springfield's wintry weather. Quote, "This is their day to choose and do anything they want to do in a completely novel space," he said. So that challenges them to think and to be aware in different ways than they are in their exhibit. But it ties into our goal for offering constant enrichment that really challenges the animals to use their widest range of natural behaviors. Each Gintu penguin did make their own choice, though, in how they wanted to spend their day in the great outdoors. Some took a nap in the fluffy snow, others fanned their wings in the sunshine, and one particular penguin, Beth, decided to forge her own path and waddle across the yard away from the rest of the group. And we see a picture that follows of Beth forging her own path. In order for the penguins to be brought outside, Daniel said weather conditions have to strike the right balance. He said there need to be at least 3 inches of snow, and temperatures have to hold in the teens or single digits for a few days to ensure the ground freezes and doesn't leave a mushy consistency that can expose the birds to parasites. With it being in the low 30s, it's actually pretty similar to a summer day on the Antarctic Peninsula where these birds would be found, Daniel said. So this is their beach day. They are having a ball. The aquarium offers visitors an up-close experience to witness a feeding of the birds and learn more about the penguins' natural behaviors and biology. Daniel said Wonders of Wildlife will also welcome back mermaids in March and bring new technology and interactive activities to its jellyfish exhibit in the upcoming months.
How fun. In more serious news from the Springfield News-Leader, a woman and her 3-day-old child had to escape from a Greene County home after a man was preventing them from leaving, according to the Greene County Sheriff's Office. Deputies responded about 7 p.m. Friday, January 23rd to the 9700 block of East Farm Road 156 in Rogersville to a report of a domestic assault, according to a GCSO Facebook post. Upon arrival, the deputies learned that Cody Deckard, 33, was preventing 4 people from leaving the residence. A woman with her 3-day-old baby were able to escape and were taken to a local hospital for evaluation, according to the release. Deputies made entry into the residence to help the 2 other individuals. Deckard was apprehended and taken into custody after fleeing from the rear of the home into a nearby woodline. Deckard is being held at Greene County Jail without bond. He is facing charges of first-degree domestic assault, second-degree domestic assault, endangering the welfare of a child, unlawful use of a weapon, and armed criminal action, according to the release. In further crime news, a Bolivar man has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for the death of his son, according to a news release from the Polk County prosecuting attorney. In October 2025, Justin Guy Rogers entered an Alford plea for neglect resulting in the death of his son from diabetic ketoacidosis in August 2023. Circuit Judge David Replogel decided the sentence on January 23, 2026. According to the probable cause statement filed in the case, Bolivar police officers responded on August 8, 2023 to a call of a child not breathing. The 13-year-old boy, who had type 1 diabetes, died despite life-saving efforts from emergency responders. During the initial investigation, Rogers told officers that his son had been sick for the past 3 days and throwing up, saying the boy just fell out. Rogers, who was solely responsible for his son's care, also blamed the child for failing to take his prescribed insulin. Keaton Ashlock, prosecuting attorney for Polk County, said in a press release that Rogers had received extensive education on diabetes and knew when emergency care was required. Evidence also showed that there were concerns about Rogers' aggressive behavior toward his son and a history of alcoholism, according to the press release. So what is an Alford plea? Alford plea, also known as a best interests plea, where the defendant registers a formal admission of guilt toward the charges, while at the same time expressing their innocence toward the same charges, according to Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute. An Alford plea also forgoes the process of a criminal trial, quote, because the defendant agrees to accept all the ramifications of a guilty verdict, such as a punishment. This plea and its subsequent admission of guilt may be used against the defendant in future suits.
Well, in 417 Foodie News, an area brewery files for bankruptcy, a Honduran restaurant opens, and a downtown Springfield restaurant closes its doors. First, the headline: brewery files for bankruptcy but will continue operations. Local brewery 4x4 Brewing Company did file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the Western District of Missouri January 15th, according to court records, a move that owners are calling a strategic restructuring to strengthen financial future. The brewery said it is reorganizing its debt with a private investor after an attempt at public fundraising. Quote, like many small breweries, we face significant financial headwinds in recent years, owners said in a press release. This restructuring allows us to realign our finances, strengthen operations, and keep doing what we love, serving our community and brewing great beer. And what follows is a picture of a tankard with the 4x4 Brewing Company logo on it. Despite the change, quote, taproom operations, staff, and events will continue as normal, including upcoming beer releases and seasonal promotions, the press release said. Chapter 11 bankruptcy is a formal process that allows a company to come to an agreement with creditors to resolve the debtor's financial shortcomings by reorganizing existing assets rather than selling them, according to Cornell Law School's Legal Information Institute. This allows the company to continue operating. 4 couples opened the brewery in 2017: Chris and Sheila Schaefer, Derek and Danielle Shamal, Justin and Stacey Steenbrew, and Steve and Kelly Dobbs, hence the name 4x4 Brewing Company. It has 2 locations, one at 2811 East Galloway Street in Springfield and one at 9003 Sawgrass Avenue in Nixa. Honduran restaurant has opened in Springfield, and we see a picture of a sign advertising this restaurant over at 1820 West Kearney Street. El Rinconcito de Honduras, which translates to the little corner of Honduras, is now open. Again, that address, 1820 West Kearney Street. Their hours are 10 to 9 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 10 to 4 on Sundays. The restaurant serves Honduran food as well as a Chinese food menu. Honduran offerings include pollo con gatos, which includes fried chicken, slices of green plantain, tomato sauce, pico de gallo, pickles, cabbage salad. They also have griddle cake stuffed with beans, chicken, and mozzarella cheese. Quite an interesting menu there. And our next headline reads, Downtown Springfield restaurant closes its doors. The Wheelhouse at 307 South Jefferson Avenue closed January 17th. The Mexican Thai fusion restaurant had opened in that location in May after 6 years at the Vibe Hotel. We hate to say goodbye, but it has become economically unsustainable to keep operating at this level. The team deserves stability, and that is something we've struggled with since opening in May. The restaurant said in a January 17th Facebook post, quote, restaurants are a tough business, and while the restaurant was everything we could have hoped for and more, the business unfortunately didn't follow. The Wheelhouse opened as a food truck first in 2013.
And continuing in more food news from the Springfield Daily Citizen, Ponchero's franchisee expands Missouri footprint with a Springfield store. Ponchero's Mexican Grill will open its first Springfield store February 3rd. The store opening is part of a greater expansion effort for franchisee Davis Fresh Mex across the Show Me State. For Dick Davis, co-owner of Davis Fresh Mex, the Springfield opening will mark the 6th Ponchero's restaurant across Missouri, according to a company press release. Davis owns 3 Ponchero's stores in Columbia, 1 in Jefferson City and 1 in Rolla. The Ponchero's launch in Springfield will be followed with a 7th Missouri store in Lebanon. The past 3 years spent expanding the Ponchero's footprint have kept our plates full, from dedicating time to existing locations to, more recently, opening new ones, Davis said in the release. We've seen the incredible potential for growth in Missouri, which is why we're thrilled to continue introducing this brand to communities across the state. Founded in Iowa in 1992, Ponchero's offers made-to-order burritos, bowls, salads, and more, according to the press release. The fast casual chain fresh presses every tortilla from a ball of dough and uses a mixing tool to mix ingredients. The chain has more than 70 locations across 12 states. Ponchero's will open February 3rd at 2100 West Republic Road, Suite 100. The store offers about 2,400 square feet and features a mobile pickup drive-thru, according to the release. For Davis and his son and co-founder of Davis Fresh Mex, Joe, opening the Springfield Star marks a return to both their pasts. Both Dick and Joe Davis graduated from Missouri State University. Both my son and I graduated from Missouri State University, and returning to Springfield offers us an opportunity to give back to the community where our careers began, Dick Davis said in the release. Davis Fresh Mex acquired the existing Ponchero's stores in Columbia and Jefferson City in 2023. In 2025, the company opened the Rollo restaurant. After Springfield, the franchisee will open a Ponchero's store in Lebanon. The first Missouri Ponchero's opened in Columbia in 2013. Davis Fresh Mex LLC was registered to Joe Davis of Fulton, according to Missouri Secretary of State records. It was formed in May 2023. The more than 14,000 square foot shopping center that houses Ponchero's was owned by Majors Crossing LLC and was appraised at $2.9 million, according to Greene County Assessor's Office records. The Springfield store will host promotions for its grand opening week. For loyalty app members, guests can snag a $1 burrito from February 5th through 10th, according to the release. Guests are encouraged to download the Ponchero's app to gain access to the promotions. Guess I'll be doing that.
Well, after last weekend's winter storm, health experts are reminding people about the risks that occur when shoveling snow. Luke Spain, an injury prevention coordinator at Cox Health, emphasizes that the activity, often seen as a simple winter chore, can lead to overexertion and serious injury for older adults. We've got a lot of bending over, which is putting a lot of strain on your back, especially in potentially dangerous conditions, said Spain. You're trying to get traction in a potentially slippery environment. He explains it's more dangerous in cold conditions as the air gets heavier, making it more difficult for respiratory functions. We're trying to move a lot more air than we normally move, he continued, with that really sharp cold, especially those single-digit temperatures we've had and expect to come back again. That can really take a pretty serious toll on our lungs. Spain recommends that anyone shoveling, no matter the age, hydrate well and take breaks every 30 minutes to avoid strain, as well as hypothermia and frostbite. Because of those concerns, some in the community are helping out. Jonathan Vernon and his family have been shoveling driveways to help pay to take their son to Legoland, but for seniors and those with disabilities, they're offering their services at no cost. Quote, "We wanted to make sure that they could get their medicine," Vernon said. "A lot of them were on fixed income, so we wanted to make sure that they weren't having to go out of their pocket to just clear their driveway." Vernon added that he would like the same done if he were in their position, which is why he's lending a hand to those who need it. Quote, "I don't want to have them stress and then hurt themselves at all, so that's something we do just to take the stress off of them." And in more weather-related news, the trucking companies are working to get operations back to normal after the storm forced many drivers off the roads and, of course, created delays across the freight industry. Wilson Logistics, which employs around 450 drivers, had crews stuck throughout the southeast during the storm. Operations manager Skip Wilson said the company staffed personnel around the clock to monitor driver safety. "Really, the safety of our drivers is the biggest challenge of it," Wilson said. "We've had people staffed all 24/7 through the whole storm. Using the technology we've got to make sure that we're keeping our drivers safe is our first and foremost priority." The storm posed a difficult balancing act for freight companies between keeping goods moving and protecting drivers. "It's tough because we want to make sure that the freight stays moving, making sure that the stores stay stocked the best that they can, and the warehouses stay full," Wilson said. "But of course, at the same time, making sure our drivers stay safe is the most important piece of it." Recovery challenges are, of course, continuing. With the aftermath of the storm, problems still remain for the industry. Wilson said the company lost days of productivity, and receivers and shippers are still working to resume normal operations. "We lost days of utilization, and so now all the receivers and shippers have been closed for days, and they're still trying to come back to work," Wilson said. "So, it's going to be a mess for the next week or so that we're going to have to climb out of it." Truck driver Joel said this winter has been particularly challenging compared to recent years. "This winter is a little more brutal than the last 3 or 4, Joel said. "Last year was only a handful of storms, but this one's already up there. But yeah, there were a lot of wrecks last night coming through." Driver Jacob Duncan emphasized the importance of monitoring weather conditions. Quote, "It's really important that you just pay attention to the weather," Duncan said, "because if you don't, that can lead you into some problems." Even as the storm has passed, road conditions do remain dangerous in parts of Louisiana, Arkansas, and Tennessee, where cleared roads once again froze overnight.
And Zoe McIntyre with the Springfield Daily Citizen talks about a public school district facing a second racial discrimination lawsuit since 2024. A former Republic High School student and his mother filed a 65-page lawsuit against the district January 12th, alleging that the black teen experienced bullying, discrimination, and harassment. The district settled a different racial discrimination lawsuit in June of 2025. The most recent suit alleges that between 2021 and 2025, Tyreek Williams, now 19, was subject to racial harassment several times every week. Other students called him a racial slur and Tyrone while referring to black people as slaves, according to the lawsuit. Williams allegedly faced bullying that escalated until he was assaulted at school. The suit states that his mother, Alicia Hornbuckle, continuously asked the school district to address the harassment. It claims that the district refused to end the harassment from other students and retaliated against Hornbuckle for complaining, while teachers and football coaches allegedly exhibited disparate treatment of Williams. In a statement sent to local news outlets, the Republic School District states that its administrators, quote, categorically deny the allegations contained in the lawsuit. The Republic School District is committed to working in partnership with families to support positive learning experiences that shape students for future success, the statement continues. While we strive to resolve concerns through collaboration, meaningful resolution depends on respectful and constructive interactions. The district will not tolerate behavior that undermines the safety or well-being of students or staff, including threats, intimidation, or manipulation directed toward teachers, coaches, and administrators. We are confident the facts of this case will be addressed through the legal process and will not comment further at this time. The lawsuit describes events that allegedly took place during each of the 4 years Williams was a student at Republic High School. It states that beginning in his freshman year, Williams' football coach treated him more harshly than his peers who were white. The coach, quote, would often call William chicken legs and told him that he needed to gain weight to play football, according to the suit. During practices, white players allegedly made comments including, "You're only good because you're black," and "How are you black and not starting?" In his sophomore and junior years, the suit states that other students began to make comments and memes about Williams' nose and call him a racial slur and Tyrone. Additionally, the suit states that some teachers neglected to accommodate Williams' 504 plan, causing him to struggle with classes. His mother spoke to school staff about the classroom accommodations outlined in Williams' 504 plan and his, quote, declining emotional and mental state due to ongoing racial harassment, the lawsuit states. In January of 2025, a member of the district staff sent Hornbuckle an email threatening to charge her with trespassing for appearing at school functions or on school property, according to the document. The suit claims that on January 17, 2025, Williams was assaulted at school by the same student who had been harassing him about his appearance and nose. The district allegedly failed to inform Hornbuckle about the assault, leaving the student to FaceTime his mom from the nurse's office. The harassment and discrimination were sustained, interconnected, linked, and of similar nature and pattern, such that they exhibited a constant hostile learning environment for plaintiff Williams, the lawsuit states. It claims that the harassment was terrifying at times. In June of 2025, the Republic School District settled a John Doe lawsuit filed in February 2024. The plaintiff was a black high school student and athlete. According to the lawsuit, he was subject to racist jokes, called racial slurs, treated more harshly than white teammates, and assaulted by one of the students who bullied him. The bullying and racial harassment described in this lawsuit allegedly began during a summer wrestling camp at Republic High School in 2022. According to the suit, the student repeatedly told his coach about the harassment. In November 2022, the student injured his hip during practice. The lawsuit claims that a peer who had previously called the student a racial slur assaulted him by kicking or, quote, attempting to kick him while he was on the floor icing his hip. The Republic School District denies any wrongdoing per its settlement agreement with the plaintiff. The district agreed to pay $80,000, with $29,861.46 going to the plaintiff's attorney. As another condition of the settlement, the district agreed to hold training sessions on bullying, hazing, discrimination, harassment, and retaliation for teachers, administrators, and students grades 5 through 12.
And from the Springfield News-Leader, Springfield has named Bob Atchley city's new principal planner. Bob Atchley, a senior city planner, has been promoted to principal planner for Springfield. This was effective January 26th, according to a community announcement. The announcement was made by the city of Springfield, highlighting Atchley's 20 years of experience in municipal and county planning. He has extensive planning experience, reads the headline. Atchley joined the city in 2017 as a senior city planner. Before that, he held planning leadership roles in Taney and Christian counties. And what follows is a picture of a smiling Bob as he gets ready to take on his new position. His experience includes managing high-volume development review processes, supporting the modernization of development regulations, coordinating stormwater and floodplain management activities, and assisting with grant-funded infrastructure and community resilience projects, according to the announcement. Quote, my academic background is rooted in community and regional planning. I earned a Bachelor of Science in Community and Regional Planning from Missouri State University and went on to complete 30 credit hours towards a Master of Public Administration with a planning emphasis, Atchley said in the announcement. A role in the Forward SGF plan. In this new role, he'll provide advanced leadership to support planning and development functions, city council priorities, and advance the initiatives of the city's Forward SGF comprehensive plan, according to the announcement. Bob is well respected for his collaborative approach, strong institutional knowledge, and sincere commitment to community betterment and quality of place, Planning and Development Director Steve Childers said in the announcement. And the Missouri Department of Conservation has a reminder for us. If you have a tree stand in a Missouri conservation area, you need to take it down. They are reminding hunters to remove their portable tree stands from conservation areas by the end of the month. Hunters have until February 1st to take their stands down in areas where black bear, deer, or elk hunting is allowed, the MDC said in a news release. This is in accordance with Missouri's Wildlife Code, which allows for portable tree stands to be used in conservation areas only from September 1st through January 31st. The next headline asks, what does the Missouri Wildlife Code say about tree stands? Well, outside of the 5-month time frame, the rule also requires hunters to plainly label their stands on a durable material with their full name and address or conservation number when it's not in use. And what follows is a picture of a couple of hunters in their orange vests participating in managed pheasant hunts at the Andy Dalton shooting range over near this was for an outdoor awareness class. The use of nails, screw-in steps, or any material or method that would damage the tree is not allowed. And what happens if you don't take your stand down in time is the next headline. If any tree stands are found on conservation areas after February 1st, they may be confiscated by conservation agents as evidence until an owner can be determined or a court order for their disposition can be obtained.
Coming to us from Jeff Kessinger with the Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield Little Theater dominates the 2025 Broadway World Kansas City Awards. Following is a photo of the Springfield Little Theater's production of The Little Mermaid, which won 5 awards. Looks like a really fun production. The Queen City of the Ozarks dominated the 2025 Broadway World Kansas City Regional Awards, winning all but 2 honors handed out to non-professional theaters. Springfield Little Theater won 15 awards to lead the way, including Favorite Local Theater. It's always really nice for our volunteers to have the recognition because they work really, really hard, said Beth Damon, Springfield Little Theater's executive director. It means a lot, and it says a lot for the work our volunteers and staff do at the theater. I'm really proud of them. The audience-voted awards were announced on January 15th. The region includes the Kansas City Metro, both on the Missouri and Kansas sides, and extends to other parts of the Show Me State. The 2025 Regional Awards honor regional productions, touring shows, and more. All of them had their first performance between October 1st, 2024 and September 30th, 2025. Following is a photo of Springfield Little Theater's production of Waitress, which was named the Best Musical. There's a photo of a waitress holding a little girl, both of them wearing aprons with a cast behind them singing. Springfield Little Theater's production of The Little Mermaid captured 5 awards, most of them for the show's design. Lorianne Dunn, SLT's education director, won Best Choreography of a Play or Musical, while Christian Bernard, Sound Design, Bonnie Johnson, Costume Design, and Andrew Wilson, Scenic Design, also took home awards. The Little Mermaid also won the award for Best Dance Production. Another big winner was Springfield Little Theater's production of Waitress. SLT was one of the first community theaters in the United States to produce that show, and it captured the Broadway World Kansas City Award for Best Musical. Katie Orr, who played Dawn, won the award for Best Supporting Performer in a Musical. Behind the scenes, Joshua Inman was honored for Best Direction of a Musical, and Jamie Bauer took the award for Best Lighting Design of a Play or Musical. Ava Bartlett was one of 3 actors to play the lead role in Springfield Little Theater's Annie, and she was named Best Performer in a Musical. That show captured the honor for Best Theater for Young Audiences production. Carla Wooten, meanwhile, won Best Music Direction and Orchestra Performance for her work on Oklahoma. Springfield Little Theater also won a pair of awards for productions that weren't part of their main stage season. Parental Guidance Suggested by Springfield writer Kelly Long was named Best New Play or Musical. It ran February 6th through 9th, 2025 in the Studio Theater at the Judith Einhart Reynolds School of the Performing Arts as part of SLT's New Work series. Doman won an award herself. Her one-night-only comedy event, I Get a Kick Out of You, was named Best Cabaret/Concert/Solo Performance. That show was a fundraiser for SLT. Isn't that the craziest thing ever, Damon said. I don't even know how people get nominated. It's humbling and really nice. Thanks to everyone who watched and voted. It was me doing stand-up comedy, which I hadn't done in 18 years, but it was like going back home. Damon hopes these awards remind everyone to get out and support local arts. The arts are a reflection of who and what we are, she said. Sometimes it's a kick in the teeth, and sometimes it's an absolute blast. It takes you up, takes you down, it evokes all the emotions. I feel really fortunate to be part of the arts community here in Springfield. It really is a freaky vortex of talent. We have the opera, the symphony, ballet, live theater, the Gillios. Get out there and support it. High Tide Theatrical captured 3 awards, including 2 for Hand to God. Clayton Avery won Best Direction of a Play, while Bailey Deal was named Best Performer in a Play for his dual role of Jason and his puppet Tyrone. Deal put in a lot of work to master the puppetry and called the award a complete shock that left him feeling completely elated. It means so much because it was a public vote, Deal said. Anyone could contribute, and that, to me, means enough people saw the show, saw my performance, and were moved by it enough to cast a vote for me as Best Performer in the Kansas City region for non-professional theater, which is such an honor. Hand to God touched on themes like faith and grief, and Deal said acting in the dark comedy for High Tide has changed the trajectory of his life. He has several people he thanks for that. I was content with only doing maybe 1 or 2 shows every year, maybe even every 2 years, he said. But when I did that show with High Tide, it was such a fantastic experience and an amazing environment that I wound up doing 2 more shows with High Tide this year, as well as one of their concerts. Just working with them has been phenomenal, and I want to continue to work with them in whatever capacity I can and want to continue doing theater more so than I did before the show. I'm thankful to the person who really drove me to get back into theater, my loving partner, Lindsay Williams. Of course, the director, Clayton Avery, for casting me in that position and trusting that role to me. Big shout-outs to Grace Billingsley and Joshua David Smith, who run High Tide and do it so exceptionally that people want to come back and people want to support them. And then, of course, my family. My parents, my brother, and my sister have always been my biggest supporters, so a big thank you to them as well. High Tide also won the award for Best Ensemble for its sold-out production of Into the Woods. It is incredibly exciting to be included among such established and beloved non-professional theaters in the region, said Joshua David Smith, High Tide's artistic director. Reflecting on where High Tide was just a few short years ago and seeing how far we've come is both encouraging and deeply meaningful. We are especially proud of Bailey Deal for receiving Best Performer in a Play, as well as the entire cast of Into the Woods for their well-deserved recognition. At High Tide, every cast member and volunteer plays a vital role in the success of each production. The countless hours of work, collaboration, and willingness to support every aspect of the process are what make this theater such a special and unique place. We are thrilled by the momentum we're building and are excited to continue creating meaningful, memorable experiences for our community. Springfield Contemporary Theater, which closed in July of 2025, also earned an award from Broadway World Kansas City. Christian Bernard took top honors for Best Sound Design of a Play or Musical for The Woman in Black. Starring Heath Hillhouse and Nathan Shelton, the horror play ran in October 2024 at the historic Fox Theater. Before the show opened, Shelton gave credit to the backstage team for helping create a spooky setting for The Woman in Black. You hear in shows that sound is such a big part of it and lights, but in this, it really is like half the show, Shelton said. It's us on stage playing the characters, but the sound design and the lighting design in this show particularly are like a whole other character. They build the world, but they also make that immersive experience for the audience. It gets under your skin.
Well, if you buy, sell, and trade using those peer-to-peer payment apps, this scam warning is for you. A small business owner could have lost $1,000. Boyd Craig with XS Storage Thrift Store on the Marshfield Square shares his experience. Quote, "We're trying to help people who can't afford the high-dollar stuff. A so-called customer nudged him on Facebook, asking him if he had a dresser. Craig sent her a photo of a dresser for $25. She wanted it and asked Venmo to send the money. Craig got an email about a $25 pending payment and to call Venmo tech support. The problem? His Venmo account won't accept business payments. The customer would need to send him $1,000. It's a miracle. The customer was willing to do that under one condition. Will you promise to pay it back?" chuckled Craig. "This person is not going to send me $1,000 for a $25 dresser. They didn't even look at the others we had." Quote, "Unfortunately, we see overpayment scams reported to the BBB scam tracker all the time," said Pamela Hernandez with the Better Business Bureau. "That money is gone immediately, and there's nothing you can do to get that back." Fortunately, though, Craig didn't lose a dime. "If anyone asks you for money or sends you a bunch of money, walk away," he says. "Remember, those peer-to-peer payment apps don't have the same consumer protection like credit cards. That's why scammers like to use them. Only send money to people you really know, like your hairdresser or babysitter. If you're buying something from a stranger, wait till you meet them in person to see them and the product before sending money. And of course, if you come across a scam, report it to the Better Business Bureau and the Attorney General, and good luck on that, that's for sure." Oh, goodness. Let's get back to food news. As 2026 rolls in, Springfield's beloved, nearly famous deli and pasta house has reason to celebrate, marking 50 years in business, and the journey into its 5th decade starts under new ownership. But don't worry, stresses owner Dan Brown, they aren't changing the lunch menu. "If it's not broke, don't fix it," he said, seated to his wife Tiffany, co-owner. They have quite a story, which includes raising 10 kids. The only changes you'll notice are an enhanced dinner menu. They've added appetizers, pasta, and before COVID, they did more business at night and had a chef who left during the pandemic. When the restaurant reopened, They offered the lunch menu in the evening and stepped away from steaks, but the Browns would like dinner to become its own attraction. And what follows is a lunch picture of Nearly Famous at a true hot spot for lunch here in the Springfield area. They've slightly lowered alcohol prices, and if you didn't know they sold booze, you're not alone. Brown says a lot of people didn't realize, so he put signs on tables advertising their $4 beers. When he dropped prices, sales increased in a month from $500 to $2,000. And part of his mission now is for people to think of Nearly Famous Deli and Pasta House as a go-to in the evening. Already, it's bustling at lunch. He's also worked to reduce wait times for tables during the workday rush. A family formed through friendship. Dan first met Tiffany when he was married to his late wife, Alicia. Tiffany and Alicia were best friends. They lived in Branson at the time, which is where Tiffany is from, and Dan grew up in Crane. Dan had 6 daughters. When the youngest was 2 months old, Alicia passed away unexpectedly. Tiffany had 3 of her own and offered to help Dan with the kids. I told him, I'm not going to let you do this alone, Tiffany said. And there we see a family picture of the Brown clan. They bought a 2-story home in Marionville to accommodate everyone. She lived on one floor, he lived on another, and in time the friendship and love blossomed. They got married and have had a baby together. They now have 10 kids, 8 girls and 2 boys. They also have 10 grandchildren, 8 boys and 2 girls. The Browns still live in that 6-bedroom home in Marionville. Tiffany is an office manager for another business and keeps the books at Nearly Famous. Most of their children are adults now, but they still have a couple at home who are in band and sports, so they are very busy. They just celebrated their 10th anniversary and snuck off to Texas to see a Dallas Cowboys game. Congratulations.
Oh, a judge weighs on whether to allow an April vote on Missouri property tax caps. While the Kansas City Chiefs are leaving Missouri and won't use the incentives lawmakers created for them last summer, the question of whether other tax credits and property tax caps included in the legislation will be used by anyone remains undecided. Cole County Circuit Judge Christopher Limbaugh, after a hearing on Wednesday, January 21st, promised he would rule by February 10th on whether to issue a preliminary injunction to block elections on property tax caps that must be held in April in 97 counties. A second hearing in the case, originally filed by 2 taxpayers, 6 school districts, and a fire district, will be held next week as attorneys for the plaintiffs seek a summary judgment in their favor. And in a January 16th decision certain to be appealed, Limbaugh denied standing, the right to sue, and dismissed a case brought by 2 lawmakers and a conservative activist, arguing the wide-ranging legislation violated procedural rules for passing bills. The bill approved by lawmakers in a June special session offered up to $1.5 billion in incentives to keep the Kansas City Chiefs and Royals in Missouri. It also expanded a program of tax credits as an incentive for major amateur sports competitions, offered tax credits for disaster relief, and set the property tax caps in 97 of the state's 114 counties. In 75 counties, voter approval would limit future increases in tax property tax bills to 5% or the rate of inflation, whichever is greater. For 22 counties, voter approval would mean individual property tax bills could not increase. The tax base would be reset when a property changes hands. The caps allow tax bills to increase when a new or increased tax is approved by voters. February 10th is a key date because that is when April ballots must be certified by local election authorities. 27 counties joined in the lawsuit after it was filed, arguing that the cost of the election is an unfunded mandate that violates the Missouri Constitution. Attorney Jim Layton, who represents several of the original plaintiffs, said Limbaugh must decide whether the property tax caps are improperly passed special laws or violate constitutional provisions requiring uniformity in taxation and equal rights. Lawmakers opted their counties into the legislation during a late-night floor session, deciding what level of relief they wanted for their area. Many of the state's largest counties were excluded, leaving Boone, Greene, Jackson, St. Louis County, and the city of St. Louis out of the law. There's no rational basis for the lines that it drew, or for designating some counties, particularly counties, as 0% or 5% or unaffected counties, Layton said in an interview with The Independent. The state is defending the law by saying it will provide cover to local assessors who have been reluctant to bring property values up to the current market because of its impact on tax bills, Layton said. Neither the original plaintiffs nor the intervening counties challenging the tax caps are asking Limbaugh to throw out the entire law. That was the goal of the lawsuit that was dismissed January 16th, filed by State Senator Mike Moon, a Republican from Ash Grove, and State Representative Bryant Wolfen, a Republican from St. Genevieve, and Ron Calzone, a conservative activist who has challenged several laws for violating procedural rules in the Missouri Constitution. Moon and Wolfen, quote, claim they have legislative standing to challenge the law, but the court is unaware of any Missouri statute or case law conferring such standing upon petitioners Moon and Wolfen, Limbaugh wrote. Calzone, who claimed standing as a taxpayer who would be damaged by having public funds spent, failed in that argument, Limbaugh wrote. Tax credits to promote major amateur sporting events are not a, quote, direct expenditure to be made by the state, and payments for bonds on stadiums are subject to appropriation, which means they are not automatic. There is no direct expenditure of funds generated through taxation that can confer taxpayer standing, Limbaugh wrote. Calzone, in an interview, said Limbaugh made a mistake because the tax credits for amateur sporting events are refundable, meaning the state will write a check if the credits exceed what the taxpayer owes the state. The ruling also cited an incorrect version of the law on amateur sporting event tax credits, he said. The section cited is the one that existed, with lower credit amounts before the special session law was enacted. The option for plaintiffs are to ask Limbaugh to reconsider based on what they believe are errors in the decision, or take the case to higher courts on appeal, Calzone said. That is something we are still trying to determine, he said. But absolutely, one way or another, we will end up in the Missouri Supreme Court.
And Springfield's Route 66 Centennial Celebration will feature the Today Show and a concert hosted by our own John Goodman. Also, public art pieces commemorating the history of Route 66 will be dedicated with the kickoff of the festival. And we see a shot of the Route 66 big hubcap art piece on College Street. The 100th birthday celebration will be starting April 30th. With a live national broadcast from NBC's Today Show in Springfield. During the 4-day festival, community leaders will dedicate the Birthplace Plaza downtown and a new monument called the Queen's Gate Sculpture. Festivities will also feature live music, a vintage automobile parade, bash at the Jefferson Avenue footbridge, and a Route 66-themed Arts Fest on Walnut Street May 2nd through the 3rd. The National Route 66 Centennial Kickoff Concert on April 30th at Great Southern Bank Arena is going to be hosted by actor John Goodman. You might have heard of him. And will also include some great acts, including Little Big Town, Gretchen Wilson, Chris Jansen, the Haygoods. The Route 66 Centennial Commission released a full list of events for the festival kickoff on Monday. Created by the Missouri General Assembly, the commission is responsible for leading the state's planning for the centennial celebration. The Queen City holds the official designation as the birthplace of Route 66 because on April 30th, 1926, federal highway officials received a telegram from Springfield proposing the name U.S. Route 66, according to Commission's release. Springfield leaders in government, business, and tourism on collaborating on plans for the centennial. Can't wait. And we would certainly like to thank you so much today for listening to the Blind Community Thrift Store radio reading service. Tune in every week, Monday through Friday, on the Blind Community Thrift Store's YouTube channel at 10 a.m. for more up-to-date news from the Springfield News-Leader, Springfield Daily Citizen, Springfield Business Journal, and 417 Magazine. And don't forget to listen after we're live on the Audio Reader Network at www.reader.ku.edu. All broadcasts are played over KSMU subcarrier airwaves at 67 kilohertz on 91.1 from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And contact Audio Reader Network for more information on receiving a pre-programmed radio. And we certainly invite you to stop by and visit our thrift store, 2713 North Kansas Expressway in Springfield. Several discounts, including discounts for our veterans. And also on Wednesdays, don't forget we have 50% off all clothing.
The time is 12 p.m.